Evening all, and welcome to another week of the Truth, Honour and Integrity Show. My name is Thomas Williams, and tonight is July the 7th. Hi all, and welcome to another week of the Truth, Honour and Integrity Show. Oh boy, we're in for some fun tonight. This will be a mixture of brutal truth, some things that you will not be aware of, some hidden, more expanded theories that have been put out recently of what's going on, and some very brutal, humoristic fact/fiction, maybe in the second hour. You will enjoy. Well, I hope you'll enjoy it. I don't think those inside it will enjoy it, but then they're going to play games with people's heads and pockets, I might add. Then they're open for ridicule, and boy, will they be ridiculed later on. Right. This is the Truth, Honour and Integrity Show. If you want to listen in live, you can go do so on the Spreaker at Spreaker.com, and the user name is Spreaker.com/user/895-5881. We have an articles website that's called thinkdifferent.thepeoplesclub.org. We have the Facebook of the Truth, Honour and Integrity Show, and we have the alternative to Facebook, which is a social media alternative called MeWe. If you send an email with the email that you want to join with to the truth.honour.and.integrity@gmail, then I'll be able to add you in easier. Some people are having difficulty finding it once they join MeWe. So just send an email or send me a private message on Facebook if you're on that, with your email address, and I will be able to add you in. We also have the People's Club donations website. That's at thepeoplesclub.org. Right, we did something different on Sunday. For those of you who may have listened to it, I'm sure the feedback was rather good. You all enjoyed it. And it was called An Evening with Thomas. And the first guest was Ramona Halitha, telling us about her story and how she's been on her particular journey, dealing with shadow sides and all kinds of other stuff, self-empowerment, and learning her own truth and going forward with it. And as I say, the feedback so far has been rather positive. We will have a second show on Sunday, An Evening with Thomas, which will, I have no doubt, will be a lot more. It'll get a bit lively, knowing the character of the man and the humour. So there'll probably be a lot of humour in that show as well. So the second show, An Evening with Thomas, will be at probably 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And the guest will be Dave Biondell. And so we will look forward to that. So far there's 6, 7 or 8 other applications. There won't be a show the following Sunday, as I will be out of range. In fact, there may not be a show next Thursday either. We'll see what takes place between now and then. Right, where are we? Where do we start? We'll start as usual with the news and get that out the way, and then we'll get into some of the perhaps more interesting stuff, and certainly more amusing stuff. towards the end of this hour, or maybe the whole of the second hour and probably a chunk of the third hour also. We'll get in the usual questions. So there's lots going on. Perhaps there's not as much as being reported on other radio shows recently. I'll cover that later. We're still waiting. I will have further details of what actually is taking place and what is being said at the G20. I may bring that up in another show. But there's things ongoing at the G20 that needs to be paid attention to. Right, so first news item, Bahrain. Authorities in Bahrain announced on Thursday the arrest of 7 people suspected of carrying out or plotting attacks in that particular country. Now, 5 of those detained were believed to have formed a cell called the Al-Ashtar Brigades. You can't make this up. ISIS and Ashtar. And this is a militant group and were accused of being behind 3 attacks on the armed forces in Bahrain, according to General Tarek al-Hassan. The 2 other people arrested were accused of carrying out surveillance in preparation for attacks on the security forces. That has to be watched. It's an expansion of the fun and games. Saudi, Yemen, Bahrain, Qatar, that whole region. Another part of the caliphate nonsense. It won't prevail. Well, as a side note, I mentioned this on the Facebook page. Anyone noticed they seem to be taking the same name of Cobra's connections? First of all, we had Cobra worshipping the goddess Isis, and so they had Isil, and now it's called ISIS. And now they've got Al-Ashtar, or as I like to call it, Ashtray Command. I would hesitate to say that coming soon you'll have Al-Gabriel, Al-Michael and Al-Palladian lot. So watch out for that. The French far-right leader, Marine Le Pen, who famously dumped her party 1 week before the election. Was that a coincidence? No. Last Friday she was charged over claims her party illegally claimed millions of euros from the European Parliament to pay for France-based staff, her lawyer told AFP this week. Rodolphe Bosselut said Le Pen had been summoned by investigating magistrates in Paris and that they had, as expected, charged her, adding later that she would be appealing. The 48-year-old National Front leader, who made a failed run for president this year, invoked her immunity as a member of the European Parliament in refusing to answer questions from investigators during the campaign. Funny how they have immunity, but we don't. That's the way it rolls. She has, however, promised to cooperate with the investigation after the May presidential and June parliamentary elections were over, and investigators suspect the FN used money, National Front used money from Brussels earmarked for parliamentary assistance to pay staff to work for the party in France. She is one of 17 European lawmakers, along with her father, Jean-Marie Le Pen, from whom she is estranged, being investigated over salaries paid to around 40 parliamentary assistants. Yet again, another country where its politicians are basically raping the populace of money to spend at their will or beck and call. It's way past enough is enough. Now, this particular region, we covered it recently. before the news started to mention it, as they had no option. Southern Philippines and the city of Marawi. Of course, there's been an incident there today as well. Now, as a side note, there's a lot of fun and games going on in the Philippines and Indonesia. It's not a coincidence. There's a lot of ancient wealth in those regions that the cabal are desperate to get hold of. And a lot of things that you're seeing in that region is a smokescreen for that. The North Korea being one of them. The Japan incident with USS Fitzgerald is likely another. Anyway, the Islamist aka Langley militants occupying a southern Philippine city have forced nearly 400,000 people into the wider area to flee their homes. Here we go again, more refugees. While warning of disease outbreaks and psychological trauma among the refugees, the city of Marawi, considered the Muslim capital of the largely Catholic Philippines, has been reduced to a ghost town after self-styled followers of the Islamic State movement launched an assault on the city on May the 23rd. Rest assured, ISIS are not capable of doing that type of logistic operation without big help. For more than a month, the government has deployed jet fighters, attack helicopters and armoured vehicles to crush the militants who are members of the so-called MAUTE group, M-A-U-T-E. And the fighting has left over 400 people dead, while the MAUTE fighters still control parts of the city using snipers and improvised explosive devices to slow the military's advance. Of course, the leader of that particular country is Mr. Duterte. He had a lot of rather unpleasant things to say about Mr. Obama, and not for good reason either. Now, this has spread since when I first put this up as a story for the next show. Apparently it's in maybe 6 or 7 states now. But New Jerseyans were feeling the impact as a state government shutdown took effect on Saturday, shuttering parks and other public sites and disrupting ferry services to Liberty and Ellis Islands. Among those affected were a group of Cub Scouts forced to leave a state park campsite and trying to obtain or renew documents from state motor vehicle commissions. Were also among the agencies that were closed down. Meanwhile, Republican Governor Chris Christie and a Democrat-led legislator returned to the State House on Saturday to try to resolve the shutdown, which is the state's first since 2006 and the first under Christie. And it came about after leaders failed to reach an agreement on a new budget by Friday night's deadline. This is why those particular clowns, of which Christie is one of them, were trying to steal funds this week again. The funds are there. You just have to act in a correct manner, in a fair and transparent for all, not the select few. Once you do that, there's plenty of funds for everybody. Message to the clowns. Iran says French energy giant Total is to sign a contract worth close to $5 billion to develop an offshore gas field in the Gulf. This is the biggest foreign deal since most economic sanctions against the country were lifted in 2016. Oil ministry officials said the deal to develop the South Pars gas field would be signed on Monday in Tehran, with Total getting a 50.1% stake. China CNPC would hold a 30% stake and Iran's Petropars 19.9%. Yes, again, it's funny how they lift sanctions and do energy deals, isn't it? Well, it's not funny anymore, actually, it's annoying. The group Total was planning to sign the contract several months ago, but decided to wait and see if the Trump administration in America would reimpose sanctions on Tehran. The offshore field, which is shared between Iran and Qatar, noticed they were in the news recently. All these things are linked. It all comes around eventually. Was first developed in the 1990s. Total was one of the biggest investors in Iran before international sanctions were imposed in 2006 over suspicions the country was trying to develop nuclear weapons and nuclear arms. Funny how only certain countries are allowed to have nuclear weapons or any sort of weapons and test them, and other countries aren't allowed. I wonder why that is. And anyway, last month, Total's boss Patrick Pouyan indicated the firm is ready to make an initial $1 billion investment in Iran, the third largest producer in oil, group OPEC. Funny how they don't lift sanctions and give the people food that they've been short of. Can't eat oil. In Britain, this is a kickback from the Brexit. It has announced it is to end an arrangement that allows other countries to fish in the UK waters. The convention allows Irish, Dutch, French, German and Belgian vessels to fish within 6 and 12 nautical miles of the UK coastline. But the Environment Secretary Michael Gove said the move would help take back control of fishing access to UK waters. The European Commission has said it took note of what was being stated and said, but felt the convention had been superseded by EU law. Ireland's Minister for Agriculture, Food and Marine, Michael Creed, however, said it was unwelcome and unhelpful. Brexit poses very serious challenges to the seafood sector, and this announcement will form part of the negotiations. So it's another barrier that's being put up to Brexit. They will overturn that unless other actions are taken. Now, we've heard stories before about warnings about special troops and all kinds of US military and all divisions being involved in not so pleasant activities. And here's another one. An investigation by the English broad paper The Times indicates that Special Air Service troops executed unarmed civilians during night raids in Afghanistan and have doctored after-action reports to shift blame onto their Afghan partners. This was citing military and defence sources stationed in Afghanistan. The series of killings allegedly took place during the final stages of Britain's involvement in the Afghan war, citing a major Royal Military Police investigation codenamed Operation Northmoor. Part of the RMP inquiry is said to have focused on a specific SAS squadron dubbed a rogue unit. Interesting. Of course, Britain has the SAS as well. And some British Army officers told the Times they believed the SAS night operations were often based on unreliable intelligence. Go figure. Special Forces operatives were also inclined to kill rather than capture suspects, contrary to the rules of engagement. In many cases, SAS soldiers allegedly tried to create the false impression that the victims were high-ranked Taliban warlords in order to cover up the reported unarmed civilian killings. Now, members of the rogue unit routinely carried out Russian-made Makarov pistols commonly used by the top Taliban or Al-Qaeda leaders so that they could photograph them alongside the bodies of their alleged victims. The kill pistol was intended to make it look like the slain subject had posed a threat to the SAS officers, and an officer told the newspaper that a friend in another Special Forces unit had also been offered such a kill pistol but had refused it. So that's the British SAS now involved in the same skullduggery as the undercover American ones, just shooting willy-nilly and staging it as well for the sake of it. A recent report on public deaths at the hands of police has come to light, and for the third year running, 2017 is expected to close in on 1,000 people a year. Again, it has increased. And there's 492 people being killed by the police so far this year. Nearly a quarter are black. And the Washington Post, which did this particular piece, which has tracked fatal shootings and killings by police since 2015 through its Fatal Force project, published its half-yearly findings last Saturday. Despite the massive backlash against police brutality led by the Black Lives Matter movement, shootings continue largely unabated. Half-year estimates suggest that 2017 will be no different to the previous 2 years, when the number of police killings was nearing 4 digits. In 2015, police shootings claimed the lives of 991 people, while last year it reached 963. Now, the issue here is, I warned of this going back in the middle of 2015 about the issue of the American cops. And I also issued a warning, and I also asked an ex-cop who had appeared on PBS to come on the show, because he was highly critical, and he also gave a very similar warning that I gave on the Cosmic Voice show in 2015. If the public raise up, the police are going to be the first in the firing line, whether you're good, bad or neutral cop, whether you like it or not, because the people have had enough of your brutality. Now, one of the things that really needs to stop, well, there's two things, is why are we sending our cops to be trained by Mossad or the IDF in Israel? Do we not have people who can train them here? Why are we sending them to Israel? Mossad are assassins. Everybody knows that now. Why are we sending cops to assassins to train them? Like I said, do we not have training here? Rhetorical question, I know, but this needs to be looked into and ultimately stopped. There was an old saying, it seemed to have been lost: innocent until proven guilty. Not shoot to kill and cover up later. But then again, dead people can't talk, can they? When the shit hits the fan, the police are in big trouble. They're the first line of the cabal's defence to stop you getting to those who have been really perpetrating the fun and games. Of course, the politicians are also the second line of defence, was there also just there to play the role of actor in the play, whilst the puppet strings behind bounce them up and down and tell them what to say and what they can't say, and have this, here's X amount of hundreds of thousands of dollars, go and promote our product or read our narrative. But I warned then about the ELF signals that the cops are carrying with the radios. It's scrambling certain people's brains into being violent. And a theory I had back in 14 was confirmed in early 16, that there's a number of cops running around the United States of America who are actually clones. They have to be stopped. Well, where are we next? The Zionistic half-wits are at it again, making more threats. Targets on Syrian soil. What do you expect them to just let you carry on? If Syrian jets had gone over Israel and bombed targets in Israel, are you just going to go, oh, we're not going to do nothing? This type of insanity, I just can't comprehend. That some countries can have weapons and other countries can't. Some countries can test weapons and other countries, like North Korea or Iran, can't. Who made them God? While we've got these cabal clowns going round smashing countries into oblivion, all countries should have nuclear weapons. Do I like that? No. But what makes a Syrian life less important than an American one, or a British one, or a Russian one, or an Israeli one? So if you're going to go and invade their airspace, which they've told you not to do, they're going to shoot at you. So the Israeli defense minister says, next time if the Syrian aerial defense apparatus acts against our planes, we will destroy it. Avigdor Lieberman told the Israeli public radio on Sunday, we won't hesitate. Israel's security is above everything else. There's your answer. And there's part of the problem of the Middle East. They think they're above everybody else. The reality is that country doesn't even exist. It was created by Britain, 1919, as a base of operations in the Middle East. But Israel's security is not above everybody else. Everyone's security should be important, and this is what these clowns seem to overlook. He went on, there will be no compromise. He was referring to the Friday morning raid of the Israeli Air Force, the latest of several reported over the last few years, in which Israel claimed it targeted weapons bound for the Lebanese militant movement called Hezbollah. Israel says it has to protect itself from advanced weapons which the militants tried to obtain from the Syrian government. Syria shot surface-to-air S-200 missiles at the Israeli planes as they were flying back from the night mission. Damascus claims it shot down one of the planes while Israel denies it. If you don't want your planes being shot at, don't be meddling in other people's countries. It's fairly simple. Germany's biggest bank has rejected a request by the US House Democrats to provide details of President Donald Trump's finances. Deutsche Bank, Spit, is citing privacy laws. The bank provided multi-million-dollar loans to Trump's real estate business before his political career. We respectfully disagree with the suggestion that Deutsche Bank, Spit, freely may reveal confidential financial information in response to requests from individual members of Congress. Deutsche's counsel said in a letter seen by Reuters that Maxine Waters and 4 fellow Democrats have demanded Deutsche disclose the information about Trump's bank account. Trump has made it entirely clear that he has a lot to hide, and it appears that Deutsche Bank is willing to cover for him, Waters wrote to the news agency. Funny they didn't ask Mr. Obama for his bank account and his $2 billion that was in the Vatican Bank, didn't they? Oh well. Members of the US House Armed Services Committee are trying to pull the wool over the people's eyes, have voted to create a Space Corps. Create one. Hello. And they're calling it the 6th branch of the country's armed forces, focused on military maneuvers beyond the Earth's atmosphere. The Space Corps, which is yet to gain full approval. You have to laugh, don't you? Hello. It's 50, 60 years out of date. Would absorb all of the Air Force's current space missions under the umbrella of a new US Space Command. It would also make the head of the new service the 8th member of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and the plan, which could be implemented as soon as January 2019, has been developed as part of a radical reorganization of the US Air Force. Perhaps they need to ask the Navy, because they're the ones that control the US Space Command. 2 more news items before we go into an early news break. This is disturbing on so many levels, and it's not really perhaps freedom related, but it's a sign of the market employees that the clowns push on young girls and women. And girls as young as 9 are seeking surgery on their genitals because they are distressed by its appearance. That really boggles my mind. Now, Dr. Naomi Crouch, a leading adolescent gynecologist, said she was concerned GPs were referring rising numbers of young girls who wanted an operation. Labiaplasty, as the surgery is known, involves the lips of the vagina being shortened or reshaped. The NHS says it should not be carried out on girls before they turn 18. In 2015 through 16, more than 200 girls under 18 had the operation on the NHS. More than 150 of those girls were under 15. Now, some experts are fearing that pornography and images viewed through social media are leading young girls to have unrealistic perceptions of how their genitals should look. Exactly. This also smacks to me of another part of the Catholic Church nonsense about removing foreskins. Of course, we also know that they use them in certain products. This could be an extension of that. And also, you're going to have to consider it. Cloning. Where are we next? Governor Christie got blistered online Monday after he was photographed sunning himself on a New Jersey beach that he had closed down to the public over the 4th of July weekend because of the government shutdown. It's just a pity he never informed air and sea rescue teams, as they were called out as people thought it was a beached whale. And the final news item before we go into a musical break. In the UK, again, it's 10 years since the smoking ban was introduced, which has cost many thousands of jobs, and a closure of 7,000 pubs, or bars as we call it over here, since that time. 7,000 pubs closed. Now, they always stated it's to improve your health, but has health increased since the ban was introduced? Now, in 2014, there were around 357,000 new cases of cancer in the UK. That's 980 per day. In males, there were around 181,000 cases, and females around 176,000 diagnosed as cancer. Every 2 minutes, someone in the UK is diagnosed with cancer. Since the early 1990s, incidence rates for all cancers combined have increased by more than 12% in the UK. The increase is larger in females, where rates have increased by 16%, than in males, where rates have increased by 4%. So since 1990, the rates have increased overall by 12%. Over the last decade, the rates for all cancers combined have increased by 7%, with a larger increase in females 8% and males 3%. Incidence rate for all cancers combined are projected to rise by 2% in the UK between 2014 and 2035, which is roughly 742 cases per 100,000 people. Now, I warned of this when it was first mentioned. I was still back in the UK then. The smoking issue as presented was nothing to do with people's health, period. If it was to do with people's health, governments would have forced the tobacco companies to remove the 400 chemicals alleged to be in the cigarettes. Problem solved. Or made them produce just natural tobacco. But no, they had an agenda, and I warned people of this. Divide and conquer tactic with a hidden health decrease for the smokers and an increase in healthcare costs for the rest. Now, people should be responsible with smoking. Me personally, I smoke. I didn't start smoking until I was 25, but it didn't bother me that other people chose to do that. Personally, I smoke cigars, so I will go, if I'm in a crowd, I will go away from the rest of the public. But one of the things I can't stand is people waving their hands in front of you. I think it's rude and bad-mannered. And I understand they don't like smoking. But imagine, I don't particularly like some of the perfumes women wear. It makes me choke. Imagine if I went up to that woman and started wafting my hand under my nose. She would think it was highly rude of me. And yeah, these people do it with the smoking. I agree with no smoking in certain public stadiums, or you create a section for people who want to smoke, not put them amongst the people who don't. You don't blanket ban. It's like the idea I had about the increase in air rage since they stopped people smoking. All it's done is made people drink. In this day and age, why can't you just put a glass wall on a certain section and allow people to sit in those seats and smoke? Charge them an extra 20 bucks a flight, 25 bucks a flight. You know, the idea of row 32 is non-smoking and row 33 is ridiculous. All you have to do is put a glass wall up and section off somewhere and people can smoke, and charge them an extra $10, $20 for the flight, for the clean-up. Not ban it. Because the danger is, once you allow them to start banning something you like, it doesn't stop. They just keep plugging away and banning this and banning that. That's what the agenda was. So now we've got like a divide and conquer. The smokers are almost like lepers in society. But where do you draw the line at preventing people having their own choice of lifestyle? Personally, I don't like drugs. I've never ever taken any, and I don't want to take any. But it's up to the individual what they choose to do with their body. Give them warnings by all means. So, given the above figures, it's clear that smoking was not the cause of cancer. Cancer is a virus. We all have cancer genes. It's whether it triggers it. It's got nothing to do with your lifestyles, nothing to do whether you smoke or not. None whatsoever. And so that hasn't worked out. So then they introduced the e-cigarettes. And now it appears they are more dangerous than the original. Go figure. But they just rolled it out. And the top and bottom line is they're making people more sick. This is the hidden agenda. Smokers who give up end up with a cough. Far more coughs and colds and flus than the people who smoke. Why? Because the smoking kills the bacteria in the back of the throat, leading to less incidence of viral bacteria. This has been proven scientifically. In fact, unfortunately for the ASH, I think it was there was a group called ASH who tried to prove that second-hand smoke was the causes of everything, and the trials failed because second-hand smoke accounts for 5 cigarettes per year, even if you were in a heavily smoky bar. Oops. And yeah, people will waft their hand in front of the nose or in front of the face if there's a smoker around, and yet ignore the giant chemtrails in the sky and all the gunge being puffed out by public transport and cars. Well, heaven forbid one smoker goes past and they're all wafting in front of the face. It's bad-mannered. And it's also programming. You've been programmed that way to treat smokers as lepers. Well, what if they suddenly start treating people who like alcohol as lepers? Or people who partake in pot? And people say, well, it's already been banned here, but people are still smoking it left, right and centre, whether it's banned or not. So it makes people more sick, which leads to an increase in health expenditure, turns health costs into a new growth industry. All the other industries are failing, bar the health one. Now can you see where I'm going with this? This is how they do things, and we fall for it every single time. On a side note to that, there are certain ETs who like to meddle with humans who don't like people who smoke. Oops. And the other thing is, which you can research for yourself, it's available online, top scientists, top doctors who have given detailed documentation of how smoking prevents lung cancer. Oops.
Wake up to the sunlight with your windows.
Hi all and welcome back to the second hour. I'm still standing, yes I am. Whether I will be after this show is another matter. But we're pleased that somebody else is still standing, who's been had a horrific injury. Our chat person, Victoria Plaistow, we welcome her back this evening, and we wish her well on her recovery. Right, where are we going next? Let's throw a little bit of intel. There's not much this week, but I've got a lot of other things I need to cover, plus my satirical piece that I've been threatening to do. Oh boy, that's going to be fun. The clowns, the financial ones anyway, I've been raiding or attempting to do all kinds of raiding this week. And as per usual, it failed. But they tried to connect their system, which is now largely bankrupt, to JP Morgan and its assets accounts, except they messed it up big time. And they tried to siphon everything out of JP Morgan and allocate other currencies against it, and failed. So this is, people go, oh, JP Morgan, they're about. Yeah, so is the Queen. These are the ones higher up. And they will steal anybody. This is the way they operate. Now, all the evidence and where it was done from has all been collected, the data, and all of it has been sent and forwarded to the relevant agencies of those particular countries. One hopes the agencies of had enough of sifting through data. How much more evidence of criminality do you want before you actually act? Now, there's strong rumours that the person known as Michael Aquino, not good, has been busted, and his homes in British Columbia have been raided. I'm awaiting further details of that. Mr. Aquino is involved in some really, really dark stuff. Talking about dark stuff, there was a huge ritual over the weekend. I don't know whether people noticed the change in energies. If you did, now you'll know why. Because I'm going to use it in inverted commas. They tried to call in the demons. That's what we'll call them for now. Over the weekend. By trying to open a portal to bring in these demons to help them. Now, it was a bit crazy over the whole weekend. Things were not vibrating as they should be. The energies were different. But it failed again. It was shut down, the portal. This is the second of 3 portals that will arise this year. The first one was reported recently. It was 5 or 6 weeks ago. It's another sign, like them raiding JP Morgan, of their sheer desperation. Now, shortly I'm going to be covering the 4-year loop theory in full detail, and you'll get an understanding as to why they're a bit crazy. But the portal opening and the bringing in reinforcements failed spectacularly, and it has led to even further infighting. This is not really intel, but it was passed off as intel in Cosmic Voice and certain other news outlets. The proposed RV GCR failed again. All kinds of hacking took place on Tuesday night. It failed again. Now, contrary to what is being told in Cosmic Voice and others, the Republic has not been restored. General Dunford will not be leading the country. ETs will not be landing anytime soon. There's enough of them here already messing shit up without adding more to the mix. Now, Drake was fed the exact same info at the exact same time in 2013. Remember the July the 4th special, get your fireworks out? Now, either he's stuck in the 2013 loop, or someone's taking the piss out of him. Big time. I personally think it's the latter. The message to the ones that are giving Drake bogus info: we will have our day with you. Mark my words. Now, where are we next? As we just mentioned 2013, before I go into the piece, there's a couple of things I want to cover up, or or cover before I do that. Now, in essence, the horse has already bolted on this, as people are noticing already. It was expected. But in tune with this 2013 timeline, you can expect to see a whole heap more of channeling posts and blogs, new age bullshittery, and ascension nonsense. It was prevalent back then, in its bucket loads. Now, back in 2013, most people were not aware of the bullshittery or, with regards to channeling, the inherent dangers of it. Of course, we took the step in Cosmic Voice to ban it altogether, the channeling posts, for good reason. The people they think they're channeling are not real. They're hooks and bad entities. That's why we banned it. Now, Th&I has allowed it. If it starts getting out of hand again, where people are compelled to post channeling, we will take that step again. You have no idea what you're bringing in with that type of practice and that type of hooks. Yes, it all gets masked over with all love and light. You can keep them words, but it's the hidden hook that those programs, which is what they are, contain. And one hopes our members and listeners don't fall for it again. Channeling and New Age stuff caused a lot of angst in 2013, not only in Cosmic Voice, but a load of other groups. And one hopes we don't repeat it. Now, in other news, again, this came from Cosmic Voice, I have some information on the jelly bean ETs referred to in Cosmic Voice. I'm sad to say they were all swallowed by the blue chickens and no longer exist. The chickens are now suffering from New Age diabetes after being charged $400 to listen to Lisa Renee spin out her 2013 Lord of One New Age hook material. And that's the end of that. I told you it would be brutal. Lots of politicians and military are talking about asylum seekers. I look forward to the day when politicians, top brass military and deep state all become asylum seekers. Think about that one. Question remains, was the arms deal of 119 billion with Saudi Arabia and 12 billion with Qatar really arms deals or payback America time? Think about that one. So Canada celebrated its 150th birthday of being a country this week. Two questions arise from that. Did Canada not exist before 150 years ago? Or, like America, it only existed when European invaders decided it is so? Why are they doing it? And the other aspect is Canada, being 150 years old, was declared a country around the same time America lost its organic constitution and the real American government. Coincidence? I think not. Let me cover this. This is going back to, a lot of this you won't understand because I didn't understand some of it myself, but you'll get the gist of it. I've said in previous shows about technology and how we think a lot of it is the future when actually it's the past. And here's an example. In 1999, 18 years ago, DARPA Symbiosis, it's called, developed a combined quantitative understanding of various biological phenomena characteristics, opening the DARPA door to what amounts to micro-electrical mechanical systems, integrating microphotonics in amongst many things such as electro-optic spatial light modulators, combining very short pulse solid-state lasers, providing powerful new capabilities for secure communication uplinks. Now that's what they tell you. But can that not be weaponized? Everything else is. Multi-gigabytes per second, aberration-free, 3D imaging and targeting performed at very long ranges, greater than 1,000 kilometers away. An innovative design system integration of MEMS, which is micro-electrical mechanical systems, spatial light modulators, lasers, providing quantum wavefront control leaps in photonics and high-speed electronics. This is 18 years ago. Imagine what they've got now. And even flexible cloth-like smart materials. Oops. DARPA wants hardware placed into production devices and systems applications, optimizing both US and its specially selected few other foreign nation US friendlies, i.e. Israel, to hold in future warfaring battle space management's superiority over other foreign nation threats. Told you it would go to weaponry, didn't I? It always does. DARPA Symbiosis emphasis is at the molecular level for sensing and detection. Think about that one. Symbiosis program precludes human cells and human tissue based sensing because other DARPA programs currently address those issues in combination thereof. So that's something they had previous. Symbiosis goals program stimulates multidisciplinary research, bringing together biologists, chemists, engineers, physicists, computer scientists and others to address difficult and pressing challenges in advancing micro and nano biotechnology. Have you noticed how many of those particular jobs people have been murdered since? Symbiosis program goal is to utilize phenomena in a biofluidic transport, molecular recognition, no more need for eyes or blood or fingerprints, they can do it from range, and signal transduction from joint studies in modelling and experiments. Symbiosis program joint effort expects results in new hardware device, new hardware processors and new hardware production communities that will begin utilizing new models, new rules, new methods and new processes together, enabling design and development of enhanced performance next generation bio micro devices. DARPA is focusing on, amongst many, these particular advanced projects: bioengineering artificial intelligence systems, AI, sized from nanometers and meters up to large-scale robotic systems deployed globally. 2. Biological hybrid devices and systems. Think about that. Inspired from computational algorithms and models. 3. Biosynthesized composite materials incorporating synthetic enzymes and pathways from biochemical cellular engineered concepts for application productions. 4. Neural phenomena control over system science computation measurement application interfaces addressing humans. I'll repeat that one again. Neural phenomena control over system science computation measurement application interfaces addressing humans. 5. Microscale reagents biochemically engineered. Re-engineering. Hybrids. AI. Neural phenomena. 6. Biosynthesis signal processing control platform studies. 7. Molecular biological population level behavior dynamic simulation modeling complexes. They think they were going to hit us at the molecular level. Biological population level behavior dynamic simulation. And 8. Subcellular device physics effects and cellular device physics affects within biological component systems using real-time non-destructive observation study techniques. All that, AI, hybrids, synthetics, neural control, behavior simulations, all done by DARPA in 1999. Now, that in itself appears to be rather frightening to many. And technically it should be. But we're all still here. All their fancy research and weaponry to bring us down, and we're all still here. One day they'll realise we will always be here. And you can either join us or face the consequences. Right. Let's get into some fun and games. Now, there was a question on the page which is will kind of lead me into this 4-year loop story. And it's come up quite a lot recently. Plagiarism. Well, many of you have started noticing it, and many of you are starting to complain to me about it. And I do understand that. I'm not the first. I'm not the only one. It's happening too. And I won't be the last either. But we all use each other's opinions and knowledge or material from time to time, myself included. But those of you who listen every week know I can hold my hand up and state I have often on this show referenced other people's words or shows many times. And I think it's because of that some of you feel kind of strong that others should also follow suit. Would it be nice? Yes, it would. Now, what appeared to be the tipping point for more than a few members was the recent video by Randy and Danny effing McKenney. The reason why I say that is if you listen to the video, you'll know why. It's Danny effing McKenny. Now, you can call me old-fashioned, but I don't see the need to cuss all the way through any show or otherwise, least of all by a female. It just doesn't call for it. As Spencer Kimball said, profanity is the effort of a feeble brain to express itself forcibly. Now, this discussion that they had appears to be in response to something I elaborated more on in a recent show. But technically, I've been chipping away with that narrative over a prolonged period of time, and that was regarding the 4-year loop. Now, I know many have been asking why I wasn't involved in it. I wasn't asked. Or why I wasn't involved in the recent Corey Goode exposure saga. Again, I was kind of ignored on that as well. Also, people are asking why a lot of my theories and intel are being splattered here and there. Again, with no apparent reference, or even worse, distorted spins put on it. Now, those that know me always know I always shun being overpraised or seeking recognition. I don't self-promote. It's not what I am here for, or what I'm about. It's just not. It's about empowering all of us, not one over the other. But I do understand the angst of more than a few members now who are not happy that I've been overlooked, disregarded, or even been given a minor reference, or had chunks of my show lifted and transported into other shows with no reference, and in some cases with little to no understanding of what's actually being stated. It's sad. You know, there could be many reasons for being ignored or overlooked. Perhaps others feel that my input is not valid enough. Who knows? But it can also be seen as a confirmation of your work, and so in essence, a compliment. Some may feel the need to compete. Some may feel they want to control the narrative. Who knows? Some may just like the idea of having no material themselves and can't be asked researching, and so they just steal other people's ideas, theories, opinions and pass it off as their own. You know, I mean, YouTube's riddled with those people. None of them have got any inside context or intel and just babble on what is basically their own interpretations of what's going on. Now, granted, some of them will get it correct, but mostly it's just like throwing shit onto a wall and hoping some of it sticks. It's not helping. Now, they'll all get exposed as the masks come down, the masks of illusion. They're all coming down. But I'll just keep on doing what I do, which is to get information out and share intel, hidden stories and theories, of which I have many, only a few of which I have revealed, as that's the way I choose to be. I don't want to be the main star of alternative media. This is not what this is about. This is about all of us rising up, not one. What's the point of that? Now, I believe the way I've chosen to do this show is what's best for all the listeners and members. A steady flow of disclosure that allows people of all stages of learning to get a grasp of and an understanding of what is being said. This is in stark contrast to others. This host discounts nobody. Do I wish we had more who listen or have more members? In some aspects, yes. Other aspects, no. it is what it is. But I feel more would be in a better place and understanding within themselves now if we did. The comparison between our group and others is marked. Everyone notices it. Look what's happening in other groups. They're all arguing, slating and hating on each other, and in general projecting their own inner failings. Th&I is what, 13, 14 months old now? How much of that behaviour have we seen on the Facebook or the MeWe page? It's just not the same, is it? So I hope, and I feel the ones that have been doing it will get exposed fairly soon. Right, the story of the loop, where it all started, and some background on it, and where we're all going with it. It's, in my opinion, as I've had more than a number of confirmations on it, it involves sin, or did, Project Looking Glass, and also the Galactic Crossing. Back in around 2004, ballpark, I read a document on Project Looking Glass where it stated a few things, but the main one that stuck out to me was on January the 1st, 2013, the screen goes blank. Just static. No more viewing, advanced viewing. Now, once the internet started picking up, some took this as a complete and total end of time scenario. Woo, we're all gonna die. Those that knew me then, back in Universal Voice, knew I said, no, we're not. I didn't see it as an end of time, end of days for humanity. I took it as it was their end and not ours. Did I have the full proof then? No, it was more speculation. But as time went on, it became more and more clear. In late 2011, early 2012, a guy by the name of Bill Wood mentioned Project Looking Glass on an interview with Kerry Cassidy. He had witnessed that technology and spoken to other people who were involved in it, and he mentioned the same thing. At the end of 2012, the screen goes blank, and so that was a further confirmation to me that not December the 21st was important, although it was, but also December the 31st was just as important. The galactic alignment that many have spoken about lasts 36 years to cross the boundaries of the galactic centre. Now, it started in 1980. 1980 was when they were planning World War III, the first attempt at World War III. It failed. And the ending of the galactic alignment was 2016. CERN had started being built at the halfway point of the 36-year alignment in 1998 and was completed in 2008. Now, the alignment itself takes place every 26,000 years, and basically this is what the Mayan long calendar is all about. It's in relation to the sun's position on the winter solstice, And 3,000 years ago, we were in alignment with what is known in astrological terms as the Dark Rift. Now, on December the 21st, 2012, we were in the exact centre line on the Milky Way on the galactic equator. That was important. Of course, in 2012, the alternative media was riddled with ascension bullshittery, mainly from Wilcock, channelers, and the bullshit Pleiadians, which was a distraction from other events ongoing globally. Of course, lots of those events put out in the alternative media never came to fruition. It was never meant to. Wilcock himself forecast that he was more special than anybody else, and he guaranteed he would be ascending on that date. Oops. Now, those dates came and went. And on January the 1st, 2013, I did a fairly long post and a review of Universal Voice for 2012. What was promised, what was delivered, what were the highlights, and what wasn't delivered. As many people were kind of disappointed that certain mass arrests, Ascension, RVs and Nasara had not taken place. But my view was that let's also look at the other things that hadn't taken place in a different way. Now, the key one was that we were all still alive. None of us were in FEMA camps. No 90% population reduction. No World War III. No New World Order. As those four, I suspected then, and since had confirmed, had to be completed by the end of 2012. They all had to be lined up. Now, the contract the Cabal had with the Draco, which was to carry out those tasks, ended on December 31st, 2012. So after that date, I felt at the time that it was the end of their time, not ours. The screen was still blank, as we the people had yet to write the new chapter. Our turn to write the script, not theirs. In the middle of 2013, I found out on a deeper level and heard rumours previously about what they were planning with CERN and how they fired it all up ready for December the 21st, 2012, and suddenly it all went boom and shut down a few days before, and they were unable to get it fired up again in time for the solstice. Remember, the solstice was the direct centre alignment of the Milky Way that particular day. This was an off-world intervention with CERN, which also incorporated certain human intervention as well. Now, what were they planning? Well, as I understand it, they were trying to create an Einstein-Rosen bridge, or better known as a wormhole or a portal, at the precise point of the galactic alignment on December 21st, 2012. The reason being is this would have given them a way out of here. with the potential to leave behind Earth blasted into dust via exotic weaponry and kill shot technology, planetary busting weapons, total planetary busting weapons, all of which have been removed since. Now, this obviously would have been catastrophic for all of us here, but potentially catastrophic for the whole solar system as well, as you have to remember the galactic central sun is like all other suns. It's a portal. So if they successfully created the bridge and they disappeared through the galactic center, the danger of potentially ripping this solar system in on itself and totally collapsing it behind them was possible. They, of course, would be in another universe, another dimension, and so unaffected. But like all their big plans, it failed. So, at the time, I felt getting to January the 1st, 2013 was a big win for us. I didn't realise until later how big of a win that was. I started to be in contact with people around me with a deeper understanding of things, and that helped me learn quickly and enhanced the knowledge I had, which is, at that time, I have to say, I had a lot of knowledge, but I was naive of combining it all together. So a lot of people around me, Chloe being one of them, at a later date, started to help me understand the inner aspects of it, and I quickly gained a deeper understanding of things, and that helped me learn very, very quickly. And some of the stuff I began to witness firsthand, all of which I have documented and logged in some volume. I was reading some of it this week. Oh boy, 2013 was extraordinary, to say the least. And things started to come to me during the dream time that I had little understanding of at the time, but knew it was important to document, as it would become clearer at a later date. This is why you mention, if you're having dreams and wake up in the middle of the night, write them down then. If you go back to sleep, the chances of you remembering are slim to nil. Now, around this time, I witnessed our solar system inside a portal, wormhole, vacuum, whichever one you want to call it, and I did warn certain others, but it was kind of overlooked. Now, my theory on this is that they managed to create the bridge, but were unable to create the opposing open end. This then trapped them. But it also left us in limbo in the tube, as I call it, until later events. We're not going to be permanently trapped in before people start panicking. Now, inside the tube there is 3 portals, 2 of which takes us into a bad region of space, and those 2 events have now passed and things were prevented from being catastrophic. There's another portal yet to come, and this may be, and this is a theory at this point, where the new Earth is operating at a different vibration. Back in 2013, it was being terraformed with fauna, flora, and certain species not human were introduced to the surface, although a certain few humans are overseeing the progress of it and is ongoing today. Now, a large hit or attack was done on CERN in 2014, when they were close to opening it again, and the parts hit were later reported on the mainstream media exactly how the hit took place. This set them back a bit more in their race to complete before 2016, which is the end of the crossing, the 36 galactic year alignment. In late August 2015, CERN was energetically hit for the final time, and this ended their plans to fully complete their task. It was game over before Simon Parkes and his group did their meditation session. CERN lied to the public of when it was firing back up, except certain people get triggers when it did and dealt with it. This was a week to 10 days prior to Simon's meditation. It was suspected that no further intervention was required against CERN, but certain on-ground people would still monitor it right up till the end of 2016. In 2013, I suspected we were in a 4-year loop to 2016. It was a theory at the time, and I wasn't really taken on board by colleagues too much. But as time went on, it became more and more obvious. By early 2015, it became obvious and predicted we would see certain things repeat or play out over again to mirror 2012. Wilcock and others started reposting articles they had done in 2012. Those that remember will recall me outing it on a show whilst I was still in Cosmic Voice. It was also predicted that we may see a return of some of the bogus entities in the alternative media that suddenly all vanished or faded into the background after 2012. And yes, that has taken place. By May of 2015, the path to me became clearer, and I did a piece on Cosmic Voice asking for you all to focus solely on the self and prepare for what is coming. I mentioned dealing with our shadow sides and doing your inner work. I mentioned about finding the inner and real version of you via meditation, all in that one particular show. This was to give you all a chance to prepare for these times. From the back end of 2015, the cabal have been in panic mode. No means of escaping via craft, and now no bridge out either. So that ended their plans of blowing us all up and them fleeing the planet. In a show in November 2016, I was asked, what should all be doing now? What should we all be doing now? In one of the questions from the members. And the answer was, we should all stay calm and balanced and make sure we are all still intact by the end of 2016. This was in reference to the 4-year loop, or as I like to call it, the 4-year cheat in the game. The end of 2016 arrived, and in a show I mentioned what would be taking place this year, called The Unravelling. Said everything would start to unravel and reveal the ugly truth. I think we can all safely say at this point we have witnessed that. But here's the kicker. I've mentioned recently about the masks of illusion and how they would all come down. Cabal are being exposed and exposing each other. Alternative media bullshitters are being exposed and exposing each other. So what are the masks of illusion, you may ask? Well, we all have our own masks to cover various things inside and present ourselves in some cases as being something we are not. the facade. Some may act rich to their friends, showing off material-wise, when actually they're labouring in debt. It's a mask of illusion. Others cry poverty when clearly they are not. Another mask of illusion. Others put a brave face on to cover trauma, but it's still just a mask. Others say they are service to others when they are of the self. Others acting like freedom warriors when they are agents for the cabal. Again, all a mask, and not the true version of the self. Now, in matrix fashion, what have I told you? Have I told you all the masks of illusion of not only the cabal, but also all of us is coming down? An unravelling, if you wish, and it will be displayed for all to see. Have you dealt with your shadow sides? Have you dealt with your imbalanced ego? Dealt with your inner traumas? Dealt with your anger? Dealt with your hurt? Dealt with your own lies? Dealt with your weaknesses? Dealt with your fears? Dealt with your insecurities? Or dealt with your inner demons? If you have, then you are pretty much a well-rounded, transparent human being. And a case of what you see is what you get. Those that haven't will see it all brought to the surface in its full glory. It has to be that way, as I see it and as I understand it. The progress of humanity has been stalled due to our collective inability to face the truth in and of the self, and also what is all around us. Collective. Not talking about listeners, because most of us have stepped outside of that. Except now we have no choice but to face it. All of us. Will it be fun? Well, that depends on how far along you are. Will it be ugly? Absolutely. Absolutely. But humanity can no longer go on with our masks of illusion and expect real change to take place. How can we expect to absorb or demand the full truth and all-knowing when we can't face our own truths? This is what we are witnessing now. People exposing themselves for who and what they really are. They're either genuine or they're not. They cannot hide behind the masks anymore. Those masks are all dropping like flies, and the real raw version of that person is coming through. Be it good, bad or ugly. But what will emerge eventually is a realignment of our true selves and a full transparency. A chance to correct our own behaviours and the facades we put up towards others. A chance for us all to look in the mirror and see our true selves. And subsequently, where we all are all able to be more honest and open with each other and to ourselves. That's the world we all want. But you can't expect everyone else to do it and not yourself. This is the meaning of doing the shadow work and the inner work. Nothing ever changed by doing nothing. You all know that. Change only comes if you put in the work, in whatever field that may be. It's time we all kind of rolled with the changes, don't you think? Hi all and welcome back. Just the one song, because we've got a number of songs in this hour. This is something I've been planning for about a month now. Things are all very serious, and where I come from, we are known for our humour, and some of it comes across in the show. But this is something that's kind of been playing out in my head for 1 or 2 months now, and a light-hearted look at a fictional school set up by Corey Goode and David Wilcock, which comes with a disclaimer: it's fictional. Before we all get sued again. But this is a poke of fun with some facts rolled in of the alternative media. Just when you thought it was safe for your kids to go back on the internet, up pops Corey Not So Good and David Wilcock, whose real name is Eric L, or L meaning God, because that's who David thinks he is. So this is set in a school of Corey's kids, and this is the first day in class. Here comes David. Gather round, kiddies. It's time to be butt probed by the blue avians. Only joking, it's not harvest time yet. Rah, rah, rah. But in the meantime, don't forget to tell your parents to come and buy our books, CDs and magazines. And this week's special has a full-page pullout of myself, David Wilcock, mastering my Nefertiti look by slanting my forehead. Next week, you will watch the hilarious outtakes of Corey Goode, where he stars in a new movie with him being Batman. Corey, attempting to get into Adam West's Batman costume, was absolutely hilarious. I think Corey has ate too many pies. Maybe the blue avians can take Corey's weight back to 20 years ago, and he might fit in the costume then. I nearly fell off my self-love seat in my 6-bedroom home watching that. Hey Corey, it looks like we have a good crop of children here today. Yes, David, but stop using harvesting terms like crop, otherwise people will get onto us. Oops, sorry about that, said David. It's an insider joke, Corey. Sorry, I know you're not an insider yet, but as you can't even get inside the Batman costume, one day you might reach my advanced level, said David. Now, children, did you all watch me on Ancient Aliens? If you look closely, you will see that my eyes change colour on different episodes. The blue avians taught me how to do that. Now, children, I will have to look after you today, as Corey will be gone for the next 20 years again this week. And where does the time go with Corey? Whilst Corey is away for 20 years doing IT work for rogue corporations, in the past he set up and trained internet trolls for the agencies and the government. He's also an FBI InfraGard informant. Whilst he goes out, he also saves the world from nasty ETs, works with the Nazis for the SS small p, and Corey, who is so multicultural, he has meetings with Hispanic generals named Gonzales in the Kuiper Belt.
Old Mexico. I walked alone between some...
Right, apparently there was a break in transmission, so we'll read it again after the Speedy song. Corey mind melts with the Garthans like Carrie. When he's not doing all that, he also finds the time to read old fiction books and then repeats the stories in my shows. We make lots of money doing that, children. Isn't it great, kids? I get loads of money, then I can spend all my time hobnobbing with the Elites in Banff. I also get to attend the Elites costume parties like those portrayed in the movie Eyes Wide Shut. I hope nobody on the internet has pics of me doing that. It's not good for my image. So let me tell you about who we work for. We work for Gaia TV. Gaia is an acronym for Gullible Arseholes Inventing Aliens. But don't tell that to anyone, it's our little secret. Otherwise, that guy whose name Kerry forgets deliberately will come after us. What's his name again? Oh, that's right. Brandy Morgans. He has the same sound and name, which is a sort of a synchronicity as JP, as in JP Morgan. So he is Illuminati as well. And the other guy who works for the Illuminati, Shane the Ruiner. People forget I used to have Shane as my intel guy and called him Harry. But Harry started talking too much truth and was stifling my book sales, so Harry had to go. And then there's the other guy who I told my underling, Neil Keenan, and Drake to get rid of, Thomas Williams. My underling, Neil Keenan, did a piece I drafted for him to post about Thomas being Illuminati. But I think Mr. Steele told Neil to retract it, and so Neil went off to buy tequila and prostitutes with Drake's money. As Corey has been gone for 20 years, I can let you into another secret. You know, Corey meets Carrie on these trips. Well, Carrie wrote a song about her and Corey and gave it to the band Kansas back in 1976. Carry on our wayward son. So, any questions, children? Yes, Jordan. This is Jordan Sather, our new Corey kid. What is your question, Jordan? Hey, children, wasn't Jordan's interview with the CIA agent who also worked with one of my underlings called Neil Keenan great? Well, thanks, David. My question is, I think me and Teresa, Corey's other kid, made a mistake and went too far in Joshua Tree the other week. I think Teresa is pregnant. And my question is, will she have a blue avian baby? David, oh my Jordan, way to go. My teachings have had a big impact on you already, I see. But the conference was not that type of contact in the desert we had in mind. But don't worry about the baby. We will do a ritual for you at Rhapsody. Rhapsody, David? Where is that? It's just another one of my little insider jokes I have, Jordan. The ritual is at the Bohemian, and we call it Rhapsody. See how clever us insiders are, Jordan. Anyway, we will remove the baby, then we can sell it to my contacts at Children Integrating Anu Group, CIA for short, and onto the Advanced Research Centre at Area 52. Today, Monday, is a busy day for me as I draft up the article for Benjamin Fulford to put out in his name. I deliberately make mistakes on it so I can chime in on his blog and correct him. Then I can tell people to come and buy my books. Wow, there was a synchronicity right there, as I hadn't mentioned buying my books for exactly 5 minutes. I mean, how much is that not a coincidence? Exactly 5 minutes, which is 300 seconds. These types of synchronicities happen to me all the time. In fact, I think I invented synchronicity. In my past life of Edgar Casey, I made loads of predictions. But there are some nasty people in New York claiming I'm not really Edgar Casey. But I think Edgar Casey will be more pleased that me, David Wilcock, has honoured him by me turning up and looking like him. Casey wrote books like me. You see, there's another one of my synchronicities. Hi Teresa, you have a question for me. Just let me know. Just want to let you know how fantastic your show was with Corey's wife the other week. It was perfect timing to reaffirm our message and have everybody follow us like Hubbard, Parsons, Manson and Koresh before us. We will lead the people to our proposed promised land. So what is your question, Teresa? Hi David, can I just say how great, marvellous and stupendous you are? Everyone loves you and wants to be in your pants. Well, thanks Teresa. I've been telling people that on the Come and Buy My Books and video blog called Divine Cosmos. I think my message is getting across now of how important I am. Yes, David, I agree. So, David, what would your advice be if mine and Jordan's baby started crying too much? Well, I would take it to Auntie Kerry Cassidy. Look how she dealt with my wailing like a baby on her show. And Uncle Jack Burns, the Irish-speaking off-world E.T., will also help you like they helped me. Kerry will also help you to market the child by setting up a donations page with a large percentage of it going to her as well. See how we all care and share in our group. As Corey said, this is unity in the community. But just don't go to Uncle Sean David Morton's for investment advice. The nasty people have objected to us making money for better causes, and poor Sean tried so hard to make money for better causes for himself and his wife. Now I want to introduce you to a new member of our team. His name is Emma Gold. His real name is Roger Richard Head Ramsaw, but he likes being called Emma. Unlike Patty Brassard, Roger doesn't like dressing up in women's clothes, but he just likes to have a girl's name. So, Emma Gold, also known as real name Roger Richard Head Ramsaw, has many talents. And so we welcome him to our team. Emma likes setting people up to do conferences and then stealing their ideas and time spent. But you would think a nobody like Annette O'Toole would be grateful of the publicity we have given her. But no, she's another of the nasties children who runs off to the talking eyebrows guy called the Dark Journalist, whose real name is Daniel Robillard, who patented and registered the name Dark Journalist back in 2013 and operates out of a building housing shell companies in Massachusetts. He also has an attorney called Henry S. Zack, who works for the US government. So he's very suspicious, children, as well. And I would advise you to stay away from his videos, as he just keeps talking nasty about our Corey. Now, Emma is the guy who looks after Corey. In fact, Emma's such a nice guy, he looks after many people, including Og Tellers. We have lots of friends who support us, like the vegan guy, Michael Salad. Michael started out on his career by stealing Alfred Weber's ideas on the webpage exopolitics.org. That type of ingenuity we admire, and we are glad to have Michael Salad on board. And that is the end of part 1.
Cheer up, Brian. You know what they say? Some things in life are bad.
Hi all, and welcome back to some more serious stuff. I hope you all like that. There's a a lot of hidden truths in there, and sometimes we can all get too bogged down in being worried about many of the things. And so I hope that humorous piece has lifted some of you. It appears it has, judging by some of the comments. Holly's popped a hernia, so that's right. I suppose we better get into some questions. We've had enough humour. There are so many religious beliefs that was this designed purposely so humanity could never unite as one? Yes. There was a belief in Mother Earth and nature and source originally, and then certain entities from outside introduced religion as a divide and conquer. They also introduced the money system and the slavery system also, and the clock. A lot of it runs through the Vatican Church, who created many of the other religions. The Catholic Church created the Protestant religion, which is not a religion at all. It was a Protestant movement, Protestant, not a religion. I am technically a Protestant, but it's not a religion. They also introduced Islam for a future date. Remember, these people don't operate in our time. Time to them doesn't matter. They set it up as a storybook, as a movie, to create conflicts at certain events. Like back in 1888 when Albert Pike was mentioned on the Factions show. He was talking about 3 world wars that were coming up. World War III was supposed to start in 1980, but it failed, and fails to this day. They won't get what they want. Their time, as mentioned with the loop, is up. Now, people, once the programs are programmed out of us, for want of a better word, if people are just left to their own devices, people generally get on rather well. It's when you introduce labels that things become difficult. Be it religion, colour, gender, smoking, non-smoking. They're all divide and conquer. And eventually we will all find out the real truth surrounding religion. When that day arrives, this planet changes for the better forever. Will it be painful for those who have immersed themselves into that program? Yes, it will. But much more people now are stepping outside of that religious construct. This is why the Catholic Church is putting adverts in magazines and TV to come back. No, don't. When you find out who you've really been praying to, the Lord, Aka Anu, it's not your God, it never was. The God is within you, not outside. Do we need to reach a point where all of our individual PSI fields merge and become one field for all Homo sapiens in order to become considered intelligent in the galactic community? Would we all then be psychic? Not necessarily psychic, but we'd certainly be telepathic, which is where our soul origin has before we were trapped in this system. So, could the masks of illusion that are dropping in all of us be the start of going back to where we were before we were trapped in these loops? If we continue to show the facade to other people, act like we're not real, then telepathy is going to cause a great mess, isn't it? Because then people's thoughts, oh, I don't like him or I don't like her, that's kept quiet behind the mask, is all revealed. And I personally think that the masks of illusion is the first steps towards that. When it will take place remains to be seen. There's been various dates given, some in the near future, within a decade, others projected as far out as 2070. Time will tell, as they say. I don't see us all merging our PSI fields together. That's more to do with the insect realm. We are creator beings. We have the ability to create anything. So the need to create and merge PSI fields is rendered mute. You said on one of your recent shows that someday we'll all be able to return to our home planets. Will we be able to see and be with our children, friends, loved ones again once we leave this planet for our true home? That's possible. Not everyone is Earth resident. For some, this may be your true home. You just don't know it yet. There are some who are aware of coming from outside in to help. Yes, they have family and children and friends and loved ones back there. Some remember them, most don't. There was a disconnect, a memory, partial or fully memory wipe for those individuals. It is also being mentioned now in high circles, very high circles, that there's a possibility Earth will not have a spaceport in the near future. Apparently, and this could be right, it could be wrong, Earth was not meant to be spacefaring for the inhabitants. Again, time will tell on that one. Dane Wigington from Geoengineering Watch has been reporting that our planet has very little time left before all life support systems stop functioning. How true is this, and is our planet really in such dire environmental straits? No, we're not nearing the end of our life support systems at all. This is like 2013 again, is it not? I've listened to Dane a couple of years ago. In fact, I actually invited him on the show, but things kind of went astray. I didn't follow up, he didn't report back. And he talks a lot of sense, but like too many, they allow the fear side of it to override the good research they've done, because fear and hopium sells. It gets you more clicks, more likes. But they've been telling us all the life support systems are going for the last 20 years at least. Now, is the planet, or has it been messed with too much? Absolutely. Clowns at NASA nearly destroyed our ozone layer. Idiots messing around with technology they're not competent with also have had a negative effect. Idiots accepting technology from off-world as part of a trade agreement have also had a negative effect here. But all that will collapse. When will it happen? Well, like everybody else, I wish it was yesterday. But giant steps have been taken to erode those with that type of influence and that type of power and that type of stupidity, so that there's sufficient, and there always was sufficient, to support all living things on this planet. It's just that a certain select few think they own everything. It's the Rockefeller, Rothschilds, etc., etc. But their system of control is collapsing by the day. Their desperation gets more visible by the day. Trying to empty JP Morgan, a cabal bank if ever there was one. That's the true sign of their desperation, of how things are going away from them. They took all the gold off Queen Elizabeth to keep them in the game. It didn't work. We've got clowns in the military here with their badges of dishonour on the shoulder, still waiting for the Rothschilds to deliver the RV. It's not happening, lads. You've been told that for the last 4 years. You've been told by high-level financial people it's not happening. They have no assets. This is why they're stealing from everywhere. run with it. You can't continue with your tyranny and control structure anymore. You just can't. This is our time, not yours. This is a comment from one of the members. After listening to your response to my question on the show, I have an idea. We need to start a marketing department / group to bring together ideas to market our product, the People's Club, to the people. We're a small group of people on Th&I, and if it's up to us, then we have to make plans and get things moving. We have to get the word out, and that takes marketing. I'm sure we have some talented people in our group that would want to get together and formulate ideas and plans. I'm ready. Well, that's up to the members. I put an awful lot of time into that, and I have enough on my plate as it is, but I would welcome you. You can get it out and get, if everyone gets 10 people to sign up for $1 a week, and ask those 10 people to sign 10 people up $1 a week, after 5 or 6 rounds of that, we've then got a real chance of doing things for and by the people with $1 a week, or if you can afford it, $1 a month. It's up to us then. Yes, we can wait for clowns to gain some few brain cells and correct their stupidity, where the main funds can be released, or we can make start of fixing it ourselves. Most people play the lottery. 1 in 246 million chance of winning it. Your $1 wins every week, because it's going to you. So, thanks for that. And hopefully you can put that on the Facebook page, and we can get moving on it. The plagiarising question I've dealt with earlier. Thomas, when the Vatican, the priest, give forgiveness to the pedophile priest, is he then free of further justice, or is he still guilty? I hope I've said that right. Tanika's Dutch, so she does well with English, far better than I do with Dutch, put it that way. The Vatican's been given forgiveness to far too many, in my opinion. Yes, we also preach the message of forgiveness, but there's some things that are so organised that those type of people who are deliberately organising it should be dealt with. Some people make mistakes in life. Yes, that's more of the horrendous type. I'm not making little of it. But people make mistakes in life. We all do. We've all done wrong things that we regret later. If it's a one-off thing, then perhaps if the person is shown sufficient humility and correcting their own behaviour, then maybe so. But if they're part of an organised criminal group who are procuring young boys and girls, those people should be dealt with en masse, not hide behind the church. Like I said, when the full truth of what has gone on and is going on inside the Vatican, the people may want to wield their own justice stick, but I'll be surprised if that building survives. Some real heinous stuff going on, and it's not just sexual either. Do you know if the changes from the frequency waves coming to Mother Earth are going to interfere with the cabal agenda to change us all to AI control? Example, 5G and nanotechnology. I think it already has in some aspects, because it should have been well rolled out by now. The AI is collapsing. That I do know. From first-hand experience and from people who are really in the know. It's collapsing in on itself. It realises it was programmed wrong, and some corrections have been made. I think by the end of 2019, the AI will cease to exist. That is my personal opinion. Which then runs us into 2020. Perfect vision. See all. Time will tell. But it is collapsing in on itself, because it was dealt with in November of 2015. You stated the clowns have had their plans in place by 2012, and it failed. Who or what was holding that date accountable? The Draco, for one. That was the contract with the cabal. And the second one was related to the galactic alignment. Since all living things have a frequency, isn't it possible that all Earth is a frequency to the conscious observer? Yes, it is. We're all just a frequency. That's the key. Illness is a frequency. So if you match the frequency, the illness vanishes. No matter what illness it is. If you get the code, I think it's called the Rife machine. Now, of course, I explained about what they were doing with the loops. You had the natural frequency wave that was overlaid with an inorganic frequency wave, which when combined and linked together became the Mobius loop. Of course, you've seen that many times, that loop. It's on the MasterCard. It's in the New Age movement. They're all thinking it's all nice and love and light. No, that was the trap. That was the system. But that was cut also. And organic will increase, and the inorganic holographic overlay will fade away. You mentioned in your shows the importance of doing shadow and inner work. Where can I find the information relating to this so that I can do my inner work? Well, it's all about what you do. Only you know what your hidden traumas are. I'll go back up to the piece I did earlier, because this is what you're dealing with on the shadow side. An unravelling, if you wish, and it will be displayed for all to see. Have you dealt with your shadow sides? Have you dealt with your imbalanced ego? Dealt with your inner traumas? Things you may have experienced that were not nice done to you, or things you had done to other people that created traumas. Dealt with your anger. Anger is a projection of a failing of the inner self. It's rarely to do with the person that you're directing the anger to. Have you dealt with your hurt? Have you dealt with your own lies? The facade we put up dealt with your own weaknesses, dealt with your own fears, dealt with your own insecurities. It affects a lot of people, myself included, up until mid-30s, maybe even into the 40s. An insecurity of the self. And have you dealt with your inner demons? Bad thoughts that you'd like to do to other certain people to bring them down because you're in competition, better show, better car, better house. Again, we've all done this stuff. And it's up to you to work on them and work through them. And that is what basically is the gist of doing and dealing with your shadow sides and your doing your inner work. Now, Chloe has done the grounding and shielding and centering and breathing documents. She also did the Saturn Moon Matrix that covers some aspects of it. And I believe she's going to do another document solely on shadow work and the inner work when she gets time. So I'll look forward to that. Where are we next? I thought I answered it last week about the sigil. Basically it's ceremonial magic, and it was used in the 14th, 15th, 16th century, medieval times, I think, what people will be familiar with. It was commonly used and kind of refers to the occult. Now, some of them were to do with angels and demons and all that kind of stuff, which the magician with the sigil might summon. So it's like putting up a sign and then manifesting that particular sign. It's all to do with magical or magic training. So that's my understanding of sigils. It's signs, symbols, pictures designed to pull you in to certain scenarios, or pull out or pull through certain demons if you work for the dark. We're largely dealing with the dark magic here. There are white magicians that have counteracted it, and that's working rather well, but most are more familiar with the dark. The covens are the ones who pull off the main types of dark magic. Right, we're at the end of the show. I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope you've all had a good laugh, and I hope you've all learnt plenty of things along the way, and got a better understanding of certain things. At the end of the day, that's what this show is all about. All of us getting to a level of understanding that's going to move us forward. There's enough warnings in tonight's show about how things will go unless you are in observer mode. Watch for the 2013 stunts, because it's becoming more prevalent each day now. Even Leo Zagami turned up this week. Oh my Lord. Now he's a Vatican insider. When he appeared 4 years ago, he was an Illuminati insider. Who's next? Maybe Rick Light will return with his toy soldiers, who knows. So watch out for that. Watch out for the channeling, because that's what they'll replay again. And look after yourself and each other. Doesn't cost nothing to care for anybody else and those around you. These are going to be fun times, but it's also going to be very difficult. There's a lot of head work that needs to be done by each and every one of us. If you've been ahead of time and dealt with your shadow sides, you will be in a better place. At this point in time, you'll be calm and in observer mode. If you're still mired in the midst of the anger and the arguing, you haven't done enough.